Welcome to our review of the Island Princess.
Yes, we recently sailed on the Island Princess from New York to Bermuda for a 10-day adventure. So join us and find out what we loved and what we didn't love.
Hi, we are Jill and Jerry, the Cruising Canucks.
Yes, and we are back from quite the adventure on the Island Princess. In fact, I think it was really good in the sense that we managed to test out everything you could test out about a cruise ship. Because we were stuck at port because of a hurricane. We then had some pretty rough seas getting to Bermuda. We had a lot of time on the ship because of the changes in itinerary.
We did, yes. We felt like we spent a long time on the ship, so we feel like we have a good sense of what all this ship has to offer. And so therefore, we're deciding to do a video about it all for you.
Yeah, so we made a list independently of our pros and cons, what we loved and what was, kind of needed improving for this ship. We won't give it away yet, but we did have some strong feelings about this ship. And are likely different between the two of us. So we haven't compared notes. I don't have a clue what your cons or pros were. You don't know mine. I know that mine are probably a little more accurate.
Oh, them fighting words.
Okay, do you want to start first or second?
I can start first.
Okay, let's start with a pro. Let's get it off on a positive note.
Okay. The first pro that I have, which I can say is a pro on a lot of ships I've been on, but it really stood out for me on this Island Princess, and the first pro was the staff and the crew on board. From the moment we stepped on the ship and we had to deal with guest services because there was a little clerical error, we were dealt with wonderful service right away, to meeting our cabin guy, to some fabulous waiters and waitresses throughout the cruise, to officers that we interacted with. Overall, we were astounded how friendly and interactive they were.
Yeah, I had that as one of my pros. So there you go. Right off the bat, we are in agreement.
There you go.
Yeah, the staff, the attention with a smaller ship, I believe is in around 2,000 people on this ship. I think that staff get to know you quicker. You're visiting more familiar venues and you get to know them by name. By the end of the cruise, it was like we had good friends we were saying goodbye to, which I know a lot of you that have cruised for years is a familiar feeling, but it felt more so on the Island Princess.
Yeah, we've noticed in the last few larger ships that we've been on that staff seem to be extremely busy. They're always friendly and trying to do their best, but they just feel like it. There's been cruises we've been on where it feels like they were overworked and not able to sort of do the attention to detail, but that did not happen on this Island Princess. The staff felt like there was the right amount of staff for the amount of passengers on board, and therefore they didn't seem like they were overworked, and it went really well.
Yeah, and I think that they weren't rushed because there was times they literally would serve you and then they'd stop and have a conversation with you, and you didn't get the feeling they were in a panic to get to the next thing, much like we've seen on larger ships. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, my first pro.
Okay, pro.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do two pros in a row.
Okay.
Since it rhymes. And is that this ship is not cookie cutter. It is unique in all of its spaces and its design. I absolutely love that. I hate big sanitized spaces where you could make it any venue you wanted to. You just put the different chairs and different decorations. This was a custom ship where every venue you felt was built for the purpose that it was being used for, whether that was a classic old maritime lounge, whether it was the atrium was so special. It was you look around and see people doing things on the ship, but it wasn't this loud space meant for entertaining. Every little piece of the ship, every little walkway, the dining room, little kind of nooks and corners where you could tuck in a dining room table. It wasn't row after row of seating. I just loved how it was not cookie cutter and how it was so unique. It's not the only ship that's like this because the Coral Princess is very similar.
Right.
But yeah, I love a ship that's like that. It feels cozy to me.
Yes. Well, yeah, I would agree with you on that too. I kind of had that as pros in that I spoke specifically of different lounges, and I loved the amount of space that the lounges provided. You didn't feel like you were squeezed into a table next to another table and your shoulders and backs of your chair was hitting people that were in the lounge with you. There was a lot of space, and like Jerry said, lots of little separate nooks and crannies that you could get away and have a nice conversation when you're traveling with friends like we were and still be a part of it, but not on top of each other.
What is your first con?
My first con was there's no adults only pool. So there is multiple pools. There's 2 pools. There's an indoor one and there's an outdoor one. And the indoor one looks like it's an adults only pool. And I think the first day of the vlog, we actually referred to it as an adults only pool because it reminded me of sort of how Celebrity has those adult only solarium pools, and Royal Caribbean does also. Anyways, it was very similar to that, but it wasn't adults only. So, you know, when we were on a sea day, there was one day where we didn't get in the pool the whole time because there was constantly kids splashing and that sort of thing. So I would have liked a dedicated adults only pool.
Interesting.
What's your con?
I don't think I even had that as a con anywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right on that one.
I am right. I like to be right. No.
My first con was what I called the motion of the ocean. So I did get fairly seasick on this ship. Some people tell me I'm to blame simply because I did not take my seasick medication, but I've been on a lot of cruises before where we've been in rough weather, even the Mediterranean a couple years ago, and I didn't take any seasickness medicine. I was still fine. I don't know if it was the nature of the waves, whether it was a smaller ship so it tips and turns a little bit easier, but I definitely fought with some seasickness issues, which is one of the concerns a lot of people have on smaller ships. However, when I did take the seasick medicine, then all that went away, so it did work and get settled out once I had the right tools.
Yeah, that's right. It was self-inflicted. Well, maybe not self-inflicted, but yes. I mean, Jerry's been successful at cruising many cruises without having to take medicine, but he did rely on it this time.
In saying that, there's not too many cruises where you're chasing what was a Category 5 hurricane across the Atlantic, so we did have some rather large 20-foot swells. I won't call them waves. They were just like slow grinders, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that sets me off more than anything else. So that might have been all it was. I'd be interested to see that ship in, you know, stormy weather, but more choppy.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would still do well for me. But yeah, that was one thing I had as a con, just in my situation.
Right.
Okay, what's your next pro?
My next pro is food. So that's pretty generalized, but I'll go into a little more detail. I mean, there were a few hits on things that we had, or I mean, a few misses on things that we had that weren't great. But overall, the food was spectacular, and that went from all the different venues, whether it was the pop-up lunches that they did, which I really liked that they did that, to the main dining room, to the buffet, to the salty dog, the pizzeria that's included was probably one of the best pizzas I've had at sea in a long time. So overall, the food I felt from main dining room and elsewhere was top notch.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think my food experience was really positive. I think everything except, I think there was one dish only. It was one of the regulars in the main dining room. That was a fettuccine Alfredo. I don't know how you get that wrong. Yeah. But yeah, that wasn't great. But anything else I tried on the ship was fantastic. And I had actually, one of the things you mentioned was the pop-up casual dining. So maybe we can hit that a little bit now.
Okay.
What they did is there's only 2 specialty dinings. There's the steakhouse and there's Italian on the ship. Mm-hmm. The Sabatini's. And so what they do is they use those at lunchtime to create that casual dining experience that other bigger ships have dedicated venues for.
Yeah, so if you're on like the Enchanted or the Sun or the Star, you're going to have dedicated venues for O'Malley's Pub where you can go for lunch or dinner. Well, what they do is they turn the steakhouse, the Crown Grill, into O'Malley's at lunchtime. So you can still go there and get that classic Irish lunch menu.
Yes, and Sabatini's, they turn it into an Alfredo's, where you can go there and you can have pizza. So that's definitely a positive because it gives you more dining options on a ship that you would think has less dining than on a big ship.
Yeah, I really appreciated that they did that.
My only con to that, there is a bit of a negative, is that they weren't the full menus. Like I found...
It's a condensed menu.
Yeah, the O'Malley's didn't have everything, as did Alfredo's. Pop-Up didn't have everything as well. But it had a lot of what was on the main menu, just not all the way there. So that's the only con, but good for Princess for actually giving that experience, because otherwise you wouldn't have a place to use your casual dining credits that you have if you have the plus package, for example. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that was a pro. So that's kind of a long pro, so maybe we should jump into a con.
Okay.
Want me to do a con?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm going to do a con. I'm going to do the theater was a bit of a con. Not the shows, but the layout. It was less than grand. For a classic old ship, I expected a couple different floors, the fancy ceilings. It was less than grand. In fact, there were some old mechanical noises that were happening up above you all the time that distracted even from the show itself. Mm-hmm. There was a large area that had been renovated off to the side that seemed to be a clunky use of the theater. So all in all, the theater, well, the shows I enjoyed. The theater itself, I didn't get the feeling it was fantastic, and it was your theater style seating where you're side by side in there. Yeah, the theater was not living up to the uniqueness of the rest of the ship, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe it showed its age a little bit. It's an older ship, and it probably could do with a renovation. One thing that I was thinking when you were talking about that was there was a few times that Princess has these little, on this class of ship, these little drink trays that fold into the arm of your chair that you can pull out, sort of like an old school desk. Anyways, there was many times we would sit down to pull them out, and some were broken and some weren't. And so, yeah, I think it showed its age in the theater. I would agree with that part of it.
Okay, how do we go to one of your cons now?
Well, one of my cons is kind of along the same lines. In another area where I think that the ship is showing its age and needs a renovation is the public washrooms. I found that a lot of the times the doors were just wearing out, and they were not closing properly when you went to latch into a lady's stall. There was some cosmetic things like chipped paint in throughout places and tiles and stuff like that. So I do think that the public washrooms overall could do with a renovation also.
I did not have that one. And we'll go to a pro. I'm going to go, it's kind of a generalized one, but it is the smaller, cozy ship feel. Less people, less crowded, and ironically, it feels like there's as many lounges and venues as you find on the large ships, and those spaces are equally as large as they are on the large ships, so I felt like it was never crowded. If you go back and watch our vlogs, we vlogged all 10 days, you can see as we walk through the ship, there's hardly anybody there, and a lot of ships we have to deliberately do that to not film strangers. Mm-hmm. However, in this situation, we never had that problem. There was hardly crowds anywhere, so we could pretty well film everywhere to show you what it was like, and we were at pretty well close to capacity. I think there was 100 or 200 people less than capacity.
Yeah, no, I would agree with Jerry that we really did feel like the lounges specifically, like I keep thinking about the Wheelhouse Bar, and this was the smallest Princess ship we've ever sailed on, but it was definitely the largest Wheelhouse Bar we've ever sat in. Yep. So you're right, when it comes to space and public space, overall, most places it felt like there was lots of space.
Exactly, lots of lounges, yeah, for sure. It was actually quite remarkable to think of how many people are on this ship compared to the larger ships, and how it was equal amount of lounges. I think maybe if I added them up, I felt like there might have been more lounges actually than some of the newer ships. So pretty impressive for a small ship. Yeah. Let's go to one of your pros.
One of my pros is going back to what I thought was the adults only pool, but it isn't. It's the enclosed pool. But on the pro side of it is I love that space. It's beautiful, and we had some pretty rough weather, like Jerry said, and some rainy days, but you're still able to put on your swimsuit and go for a swim or go in the hot tub. They have beautiful loungers there that have great big thick cushions, so they're super comfortable. And we just spent one day when we were tied up at dock, not being able to leave port because of the hurricane. We just spent one afternoon looking out over Manhattan in our swimsuit, reading a book, enjoying the day. So I really did enjoy that part of the adults, or not adults only pool, but enclosed pool, I should call it.
Yeah, I had that down as called the Lotus covered pool area, and I enjoyed it too. What I liked about it wasn't, first of all, it was not cookie cutter as far as it wasn't just a square swimming pool with a couple hot tubs. It was a very unique space the way it was done. Not only was the pool space and the loungers around it all done, there was also an upper area where there was different type of seating again. There was chairs where you could go up there and play a game of cards or read or have a conversation. Tables, yeah. And it was kind of in the top part, but that was kind of still glassed in, and you could overlook either the port or you could look down on the pool. And even that area was unique, where I had areas that stepped down with loungers sitting by themselves and what felt like a balcony overlooking a theater. It was quite an amazing space. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I really enjoyed the Lotus covered pool area. Mm-hmm. So I guess that means we're on to one of my cons.
Okay.
I would put down that cabins are definitely dated, lack of plugs for plugging in things. The shower's got your old shower curtain. And so the cabins are definitely older feel. It doesn't mean that they were dirty, or I felt like
our cabin was spotless.
It was just the overall, you could tell it was decades old from what we've seen on modern day ships.
From the features, yeah, for sure. Yeah. It was older.
Yeah, like some new plugs by the bed that you could plug in USB would be helpful. Renovation, little things like that would go a long ways, because we struggled for plugs.
There was just one spot for plugs in the whole cabin, so that's a little challenging, more so for vloggers than it is for the average traveler, though, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, one of your cons?
One of my cons?
Yeah.
One of my cons was the gym. And not because I'm a loyal user of the gym. I have on some cruises used it every day, but not all the time. But this gym was in a very strange location, and it had no windows. It was all inside, because outside beyond the gym there were cabins. So it was a really weird location, and it looked like you were going into a dungeon to work out. Like, it just didn't seem enticing. One of the nicest things going on a cruise ship and going to the gym is walking on a treadmill, looking out onto the ocean. You did not have that as an option on this ship.
I think, I had that down as a con as well, and I think part of the reason it is that way is because this ship underwent at some point a renovation where they added a bunch of cabins near the aft of the ship, which is where the fitness center is now located. And I think that contributed to how that seems like it's a bit of a mess, and doesn't feel like it was something naturally set up. It's just kind of there it is, but this isn't the best place for it.
Yeah, it really felt like it was a bad idea with the location of it.
Yeah, it was kind of in an area where you would expect to be a lounge, actually.
Yeah.
At one time, there might have been a lounge there, but now it is a gym. So
it was very, very strange.
So going back to the pros, I'm going to go with one of the big pros for me, which is tons of elevators.
Oh.
There was as many elevator banks and elevators on this ship that I have found on ships twice or three times the size of the ship.
True.
So you were never fighting for elevator space, never waiting for long. There was even a dedicated elevator that went just from the lower level of the atrium to the top level of the atrium. Yeah. That you could zip up and down if you're coming out of the theater and
going to all of the restaurants and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it was amazing. Like, to think how many elevators were on this ship, and then you think of a larger ship that has the same number. Just the math is obvious that you're not going to have to wait as much.
You never had to wait.
They're not going to be as crowded. Everything was fantastic. There was never any space. If you're someone that wants to use elevators on cruise ship, this is the ship for you, because you can go there and just constantly be moving where you want to without long lines, waits, or being packed in tight in a little elevator.
Very good point.
Okay, one of your pros.
One of my pros was dancing. I found that every venue had a dance floor, and that's something that the newer ships are getting away from. And I love to dance, and when you're listening to live music, we personally love to dance together as a couple. It's the only time we get to do it is on a cruise ship. And so, I was so happy to see that there was a dance floor in the Wheelhouse Bar, the Explorers, the Atrium. Where else? Like, it just felt like every time we went to a different venue, there was another dance floor that you could dance in. So that was a plus for me, because I struggled to find a place to dance on other ships, and it has been a negative. I remember commenting about that on the Scarlet Lady, that there was live music at places, but there was no place to dance to the live music. Well, this was the opposite. Every time you found live music, there was a dance floor.
Not only that, there's a dance floor, and there was people using it. So it just proves that people enjoy having a dance floor when there's music to play, live music. Mm-hmm. I think the musicians like it. It feels like there's more engagement with people. They're not just sitting there playing to people staring at them.
That's true.
So definitely that was a big plus for sure. So I guess that means I'm up for a con. And that would be that we spent some time in the sanctuary, and they did not have any type of a pool or hot tub close to the sanctuary.
I had that as a con too.
Other Princess ships have either a hot tub or they have a pool really close to the sanctuary.
Away,
This did not have either one.
No, it didn't. I think probably when the ship was originally put out there, there was no such thing as the sanctuary. I will say the sanctuary experience was wonderful, but it's in a different location than it is on a lot of the newer ships, and it's at the aft of the ship. So one other sort of con with that sanctuary was every now and then you got soot coming out from the smokestack and coming onto your towels and the beautiful chairs that they have there. And I know that, like, I got it on my cover up. I've got this black soot, and I've washed my bathing suit twice now to try to get it out, and I can't get it out. So that's a bit of a con, the location of that there.
And another con for you?
Another con for me, the last con that I had was there's no dedicated international cafe like I'm used to on most Princess ships, where they have an international cafe in the bottom level of the atrium. They don't have that, but sort of a pro, so it's a con and a pro, is that they do have something very similar to that, a smaller, scaled-down version at the very forward of the ship in front of the buffet. So there is a place that you can go and get specialty coffees and some of the great little treats like the cinnamon rolls that I love having on Princess. It's not 24 hours, but it's open early in the morning and late at night. I believe it was something like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning till 11 p.m. at night. So it was still adequate. but it wasn't 24 hours like International Cafe is on some ships.
In saying that, though, I'm hearing even on some of the newer ships now, the 24-hour International Cafe is no longer a thing. It does shut down for some time in the middle of the night.
Yeah, we're hearing that.
So this was similar hours to that. Pretty well, as soon as you were getting up in the morning, it was going to be opening, and up till pretty well past my bedtime.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was a con from you. So I guess I'm on to a pro from me. You're out of cons already, are you?
I am. Well, I'm out of cons and pros actually.
Oh.
We cut between because the ones I didn't say you said. So yeah.
Oh, there we go.
My whole list has been covered.
The rest is my show.
Oh, there we go. Woo.
See how I make out with a pro. The next one I had was that the casino was less smoky, and I think that's the way it was managed. They had a smoking section tucked into the back part of the casino.
Oh, that's a very good point.
And there was non-smoking towards the side of the casino that was near the walkway that went by the casino. So if you weren't in the casino, it wasn't smoky because you were near the no smoking side. Mm-hmm. And if you did go deep into the casino, there was a smell of smoke farther in there. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I didn't ever notice smoke around at all in the casino. However, there was a cigar bar that was in the atrium area, which is kind of an odd location.
Churchill Cigar Bar.
It was right by the piano bar.
Right by Crooners, yes.
And so sometimes when that was really busy and that door get held open for a while, it would kind of waft into the atrium. That's the only time that smoke was an issue, but it never came from the casino, which is where we normally have that problem.
True.
So I guess my next con is... Oh, I had no International Cafe.
Oh, there you go.
The good spirits and the service there and the menu issues there. I keep feeling it's an abandoned concept on Princess.
Yeah, I don't really feel like this is so much an Island Princess thing. It's maybe that they're changing the way it is. When we first experienced Good Spirits, you could order off the Good Spirits bar all day long, the special menu that they had. But they don't seem to do that now. They have like 2 hours in the evening where you can do it.
Yeah, they used to do it up like a show where the bartender would have the camera on them with the TVs running and do this whole kind of around-the-world drink type of thing. And it's kind of falling by the wayside. They do that in little snippets here and there if you're there at the right time, but it's really not the focus of that bar anymore.
Yeah, it was very hard to go there and order one of their specialty drinks.
We sat there down in the evening at Good Spirits at one point, and we thought we would order a drink because there's music going on there. And to our surprise, it wasn't late. It might have been like 10 o'clock in the evening. The bartender said, sorry,
we're closed.
We're closed, or there's no more drinks. I'm like, really? In the atrium at 10 o'clock at night, the Good Spirits, there's no drinks available. That seemed very odd to me.
So we had to go to the Wheelhouse Bar, which was open later. But it does seem like they're scaling back, at least on that ship. But I will say we felt that even on a few of the other ships we've been on recently of Princess.
Yeah. Another pro that I had was the size of the balcony. We had a regular balcony stateroom, and the size of it, the depth of it was fantastic. Like you could stretch out there. Like some of the newer ships now, you barely have room to stand there. It's almost like a Juliet balcony, whereas these were like really nice sized balconies.
It was a very spacious balcony that we had. I do think they had smaller ones at different parts of the ship, though. It might have just depended on the location, because we were at our friend's balcony room, and theirs was definitely smaller than ours.
Theirs was narrower but wider.
Right.
Yeah. So they're all. That's the unique part of the ship, is they're all a little bit different shapes and sizes. Okay. But ours was rather large, which
it was very spacious.
Saying we didn't pay for an extra balcony, that was a good plus.
Yeah.
The next negative I had was the smaller thermal suite and the features that are available there. So you go to the spa, you can pay for a day pass, and usually there's like the Lassipy pool and there's saunas and all. It's all kind of done up. This was a very small, size version of that.
It's true. I mean, it's probably not worth it to pay for the spa package on this style of ship. If we've done the spa packages on different ships where they have the pool and all of that, but this is a much scaled back. Now, in saying that, their price for the spa package is a lot cheaper because they know they don't have the amount of facilities as one of their bigger ships, but it is less options.
So back to the pros. I have so many. Yes, and entertainment options. So again, you feel you're going on a small ship, your mind says, okay, there's going to be less to do, less venues, everything's going to be smaller, right? Not the case. We had as much music on this ship available at any given time in the evenings as we'd have on a large ship.
I would agree.
There was often 2 or 3 different musical acts playing at any given time around the ship. Plus the main theater had something going on. Sometimes plus there'd be a comedian going on. Like I could not believe how much entertainment they managed to pack into this little ship at one time in the evening. It was absolutely absolutely amazing. And the venue, they moved around between the venues, all the different acts. So if you didn't catch them in the Wheelhouse Bar, you may catch them in the atrium later on.
Yeah, that was kind of a nice feature. You could go to the Wheelhouse Bar and get a comfy seat like we talked about earlier, and you can stay there the whole night because through the course of the evening after dinner before bed, there'd be 3 different acts that would come in and perform in front of us, and it was lovely. Yeah.
And my last con, that's good because I'll end on a couple pros because I still have some pros left, is microphones and the volume of them. And this, again, not only just Island Princess, but this ship is small enough and the spaces in the crowds are small enough that you can be in a venue, like we went to a wine tasting and there might have been, a couple dozen people there, maybe 30, 40 people at the most. And they had these big speakers set up with microphones, and they were yelling into the microphones, and there was no need to.
At a wine tasting.
Like, you can walk between the tables and talk to people, and they have microphones blaring and screaming into them. And I know it's the same thing in the atrium when they're telling you how to make a 24-karat margarita. They had microphones going off and screaming. And
yeah, and it's true. It was so loud that you couldn't make out what they were saying because it was being, I don't know.
It was distorting, yeah.
Distorting is the word. That's the word I was looking for because it was just like, rah, rah, rah. So, yeah, I agree with you. The microphones, we ran into that in a few places. We were like, oh my gosh, turn that mic down.
I just wanted to grab all the microphones on the ship and throw them overboard because there was never a crowd big enough except on like a big comedy night, for example.
No, definitely need a microphone there.
Or in the main theater. But like when there's little events going on around the ship, trivia and little things going on, this is not the ship that you need to have this blaring sound system screaming in your ears. It just takes away from the intimate feeling of the entire ship.
Yeah, it did.
So
sure.
That was my last con.
Oh,
so
there you go.
I do have my phone timed out here. 2 more pros.
Oh.
One is the plaza they call it, or the atrium. Absolutely loved it. It wasn't huge by any means. I think it was 4 floors high. I think I have that right,
yes.
And a lot of different venues around it. But it was never set up in a way that it was competing with each other. Like some atriums that you're trying to fight for noise and activities. It was really appropriate. I really enjoyed it. You pass through it. You can see what's going on. You might go there deliberately for something.
Well, and I think one of the things that I'd like to say about it is I found that like during the day they would do some games and things like that we're used to seeing Princess do, like the passenger versus officer games of different things, and they'd have the microphone and it'd be loud and whatever. But every evening they had live music in there and different live music. So it was never, like we talked about, somebody yelling into the microphone through the evening. So it sort of kept the ambiance good there at nighttime.
Yeah, love the atrium. I absolutely loved it. I think if you watch the vlogs, Piazza. I think if you listen to our vlogs, I think every time I walk through it, I'm like, look at this atrium. I was just amazed. I loved it. I could have spent the whole cruise there. And my last pro that I had was the amount of deck space. I think we could have pulled up next to a mega ship and taken half their people and still not filled all the loungers and all the deck space. There's no way the number of people on that ship could make use of all the deck space. We found a little plunge pool at the top of the ship where there was space for people. There was people farther aft, or space farther aft and forward, and it was amazing the amount of deck space. It was not crowded with any type of...
You didn't have to worry about reserving a chair, so
No.
Don't do that. If you're on this ship, there were some people that still needed to reserve their chairs for 4 hours in front of the pool. Don't do that, guys. It's rude. But there was no need for it either because there was never a time where you couldn't find a chair.
Yeah, no, the deck space was phenomenal. Some might even argue that there was a waste of deck space because they could have put other things there, but it was nice not to have that. Again, the whole feel for me for this ship was that it was all about being quaint and intimate and not crowded, and the deck space was like that. Mm-hmm. So I guess the overall arching feel about the Island Princess, would you sail on again? How does it rank in your list of princess ships?
I would sail on it again. I liked, the pros that we spoke about here, the amount of space that it gave you generally, and the only time we ever ran into a space issue was trying to see the Comedian. The Explorer's Lounge was filled to capacity 2 or 3 times. It would be a simple solve, just move them to the main theater because they would have been able to fill that theater because it's not a large theater. But anyways, other than that, the space and all of that, it just really felt intimate, and we really liked that sort of feel of it. There are a few pros, like it is an older ship, and you can see that in certain ways, but I would definitely sail it again.
And the other question? Where does it rank on your list of princess ships? Is it your number 1 or no?
No, it's not my number 1. I still love the Enchanted Princess, and I think that ranks in number 1 for me right now for princess ships.
So there's no sense even asking if it ranks in your top 3 ships then, of all ships?
No.
No. Well, for me, I think that this, so far, of all the princess ships I have sailed, this is my favorite princess ship, which is saying something because I've spent a lot of time talking about the Caribbean Princess being my favorite. I think the Island Princess has leapfrogged into number one for me, which makes me very curious about the Coral Princess, their sister ship. Now, I really want to try that ship because it's slightly different again, and even some of the crew had mentioned to us that if you like this ship, you're going to love the Coral Princess because it's this much, it's like this ship and even more.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's fantastic. In my top, I think it makes my top 3 of all time ships.
Wow.
It is up there. And what's interesting is those top 3 is that I think it saddens me that this ship, this size of ship, that there's all of the fleets out there, the mainstream fleets have ships that are kind of smaller of their fleets. But it kind of feels like all their focus is on the newer, bigger ships, right? And they don't get the attention they deserve. I think the Island Princess, promoted by Princess, would find an audience that just loves this ship, the classic cruiser, the people that want to go out there and enjoy fine music, and a small group of people, for a couple looking for a getaway.
A couple that likes to dance while they're on vacation, for sure, it's high up there.
Yeah, and because these ships don't get as much attention, you can usually get them for less price than the other ships. They're less crowded.
Yeah, so maybe you shouldn't be telling everybody
maybe
about
we
this.
should just keep this as a secret. But yes, definitely ranks in my top 3 all ships I've ever sailed on. It was that much of a positive experience.
Wow. What are your other 2?
My other 2 would be the Volendam from Holland America. Again, one of the smallest of the fleet as well.
Yeah,
and Queen Elizabeth from Cunard is up there as well.
Those are your top 3.
My top 3.
There you go.
Yes, smaller, older ships. Yes. So if you have any questions about the Island Princess, then definitely drop them in the comments section below, and we will be happy to answer it. And we're hoping that maybe one day soon we're going to get back on this ship again, or the sister ship.
Yes.
Well, it does a lot of interesting itineraries, which is the nice thing about the smaller ships. So hopefully we'll sail her one time soon. Okay, well, thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
And have a great cruise if you are cruising on the Island Princess.